showed out, and it was definitely, Scott, a welcoming sight, for a couple of players. Number one, Keegan Murray. I was so happy that Keegan Murray had a chance to see the ball go down from three because he had struggled mightily on the offensive end. And then everybody else got it going. Kevin Huerter knocking down shots. De'Aaron knocking down shots. Harrison Barnes knocking down shots. When the Kings are shooting the three ball at that high of a clip, it's almost like they can win a game just by doing that only.
No doubt. They were just so good. And that game was still close at halftime. And I don't know how you felt at halftime, but I was concerned. It was a 6-point game at the half. Kings were shooting it so well. Nets were hanging in. I was like, this is one of these games that Kings should have been ahead by 15 or 20 at halftime.
You definitely felt that way. I said the exact same thing on air, Scott. I didn't feel warm and fuzzy about that game at all. As well as the Kings were shooting, I mean, they shot almost 58% for the whole game from three.
Yep.
And then 50+ from two. But I still and made big time runs. I mean, 15-2 and 14-8, just big time runs. But I never felt like, oh yeah, this game is over with. Take your hat off to the Brooklyn Nets because they stayed in the game. They kept chipping away.
They did indeed. But that third quarter for the Kings, remarkable. 44 points in the third quarter, 77 in the second half. I mean, the bottom line is the Kings just, when they have nights like that, when they have everything clicking on all cylinders, it just doesn't matter sometimes.
It really doesn't, Scott. But like you said early on, as well as they shot it, and they came out and they blitzed them in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Kings were only up 12 going into the fourth.
Sure, it was still a competitive game.
The game is not out of hand, and they just shot lights out. That's why I say I never felt like it was like warm and fuzzy for them to win.
No, that's true. 25 of 45 from distance. They're 48 of 94 from the field. Just everything they did turned to gold. Sabonis was 1 assist shy of a triple-double. Malik Monk, what a night. He had 9 assists as well. De'Aaron had 8 assists. Just the ball was moving and they were running, and it was just the flow that we saw more often than not last year. We haven't seen a lot of so far this year.
Scott, the first time I felt like the offense was crisp.
Mm-hmm.
It was working. They run the high action pick and roll. That starts with De'Aaron Fox, right?
Yeah.
Or Malik Monk, who's ever held on the basketball. And then they'll throw it back to Sabonis when they don't get anything out the high pick and roll. Sabonis threw it to the right corner. Mm-hmm. It came to the wing, to the high post, top of the key, back to the other wing, all the way over to the opposite corner, and they got an open three-point shot. And they did that on a multitude of times. So the ball definitely changed the sides as far as on the offensive side where everybody was touching it.
Yeah, they got that ball reversal, and certainly that was huge for them. And it was multiple people. Of course, when you have 25 threes, you're going to have that. De'Aaron had 5 3-pointers. He looked great. But Trey Lyles last night was back in the fold, 17 points, 5 of 6 from downtown.
Trey Lyles has always been the X factor of this offense. Coach Mike got a chance to see that early on last year when Sabonis was getting into foul trouble. He elected to go small. He put Trey at that 5 spot. And what that does, Scott, is that it stretches the floor so much because Trey can knock down the 3. And then that means that the opposition really can't have a true center in the game. They got to bring somebody out that's going to be able to guard Trey at that 3-point line. Now, all of a sudden, it's drive and kick. Get to the middle and spray, because are you going to let me beat you and get to the basket? Because the Kings got sneakily quick guys. De'Aaron's one of the fastest guys in the business, right?
No doubt.
All right. Malik Monk can get to the basket at will. And then, Keegan Murray got a little wiggle in his game. He can get to the rack. So if you don't help, those guys get straight layups. And when you do, you spray out to the shooters.
No doubt. All right. If you want to join us tonight, you can call us at 916-339-1140. We'll be here until 7 o'clock, getting you ready for Kings Live pregame. 7:30 tonight in Los Angeles. G-Man with the call on this one. Just in terms from the matchup perspective on this one, I mean, the Nets, they'd been playing very well coming into this game. They'd won 3 straight, 6 of 7. But you just kind of look at it. The Nets are a team that the Kings match up very well against. The Nets have a lot of players from 6'4" to 6'8". They don't have a lot of height inside besides Claxton. They're not a team that's going to beat you up. They shoot the ball well from outside, but it's a type of matchup, unlike a New Orleans or an LA, that I think is favorable to the Kings.
The one thing that I really thought that played in the Kings' favor, like you said, a bunch of guys, 6'7", 6'8", maybe 6'9". Mm-hmm. Claxton is the longest one to do. Got a wingspan of a 747. He's definitely long down there. But they don't utilize him on the offensive end. He's more of a JaVale McGee type to where they pick, roll, lob. He's a rim runner. They don't run anything offensively through him, and that really played into the Sacramento Kings' hands because now Kings can play small. And if you don't have nobody that's going to punish us down low, well, now we're going to speed the game up, and now you're playing our style of game.
For sure. All right, we've got to talk about some of the individual plays because there were 3 last night. They got a lot of people's attention, no doubt about it. We'll take them in order of how much attention they got. First of all, the Monk dunk, which we've seen a few times this year, but every time Monk goes in and dunks like he did last night with that exclamation point, it is just so fun to see him with the passion that he plays with dunking at home.
Well, it's just not him dunking the basketball, Scott. It's the way he dunks.
Yes.
Because, him and De'Aaron both are very explosive. But when Malik Monk takes off, he cocks that ball way back to Elk Grove
it's
before
like a
he
slingshot coming back.
And when he dunks that ball, I mean, it's really with authority. So, very, very impressive.
No doubt. All right, number 2, the Keegan Murray dunk. Now, Malik Monk might have called it a 3. It was much better than that.
I wish I could have been down there at that point. I'd be like, come on now, Lee. Come on, bro, come on. You know what? It was at least a 6 at worst.
Oh, it's a 9.
At worst, it was a 6 because he went up and got him.
Yeah, he went baseline right over Harry Giles. Poor Harry coming back. That's the welcome you get. It's like having to play Isaiah Thomas your rookie night in the NBA.
Hey, you know what? If you in there, everything's all fair, love and war. You better move.
Yeah. Well, he didn't get out in time, and Keegan certainly posterized him, and that was a lot of fun. But the number 1 play that was was, of course, that 360 spin by Monk, the layup. I wish that had fallen because not only was that the play of the night, the play of the year, that's one of the great moves I've seen in a long, long, long time.
I mean, when you watch this, Scott, it was $1 million move. A 2-cent shot.
It was,
but it looked great. It was in the flow, and I'm not a gambling man, but I was buying that. I'm like, go ahead, Malik. But see, Malik is the type of guy that could pull something like that off.
Yeah,
because he's so fearless out there, and he just plays basketball the way he sees fit, and I love him for that because it really helps his team out.
No doubt. And it was just something so unexpected. That move just came in a blur. And when he did it, I was like, oh my God, this is the most incredible move. And then it just sat on the rim seemingly for a minute before it rolled off.
I mean, the move he made, Scott, was the right move because that was the only thing he had left. Yeah. They had cut him off from the right. So he had to spin that way. And then once he gets in the air, a lot of guys, and I've had this happen to me, when you have the luxury of being explosive and you can get up in the air and that gives you another second or two.
Yeah.
He spun and got up in the air, but nobody was open. He had to throw it towards the rim.
No question. Is there a better 6th man in the league right now than Malik Monk?
If there is, I haven't seen it on a nightly basis.
Me neither. And I think,
for what he's doing for this basketball team, he really, really has to be up there in the top votings for, 6 man. But Scott, what really gets me, what really gets me is that we see this on a nightly basis, and then we start asking about some of these nationally recognizable awards, MVP, All-Star, and it always seemed like we got to really put in a Herculean type effort for our guys to be recognized. De'Aaron Fox probably still isn't on the MVP vote. Malik Monk probably still is like 4th or 5th in the vote for 6 man of the year.
He didn't even get into the final voting last year.
That's a travesty, man. That's crazy.
It is crazy. You're right about that. And the Kings got a lot of awards last year, but that was certainly one that was overlooked and unfairly so because Malik definitely deserved to be in the final 3 for 6 man of the year. There's no doubt about that. Other takeaways from last night that you had?
Feel good win.
It was.
Feel good win. Dominant win on the home floor. Way to set up a series of home games. We got this one outside of G1, but this is the only one.
6 more right after this at home.
We got 6 more at home. Mike Brown wants this team to be dominant on home. So you started off against a very good club and you show that you can be dominant on your home floor.
Yeah.
I like the way it started.
All fantastic. Keon Ellis was great off the bench. And I think just to see Keegan, not that there was a lot of concern per se because he's been playing, but he looked 100% healthy last night too.
Yeah, he looked good.
He did.
You know, I honestly forgot about the back injury watching him play.
Yeah.
You know, because he looked like he was getting up and down the floor very well. You know, didn't seem like he was wincing at any particular point. And, you know, everything feels better, Scott, when you watch those 3-point shots go down.
Life is good. I mean, when you're hitting a franchise record 25 threes, you're not going to beat the Sacramento Kings.
No. When they are shooting 58% from the
Forget
3-point
it.
line, you're not going to beat them.
No, that was just one of those things like from last year. The offense was just too good. It didn't matter if the defense was great or not. Kings win 131-118. Tonight, it's the Clippers, a team they lost to 131-117 back here in Sacramento. When we come back, we'll start breaking down the Clippers. They're starting to play better, high flyer. They're above 500. They're 12-10.
Yep.
They've turned the ship around. James Harden is starting to fit in. We'll get into all of that. Game night's underway. It's brought to you by Power Business Technology. Experience for yourself how the Power of Family can help you with all your business copier needs. Give them a call today, 1-844-POWER-BZ, or go to powercopiers.com. More of Game Night right here, Sactown Sports, 1140.
All righty, we are still live on YouTube.
Kyle, how are you, my man?
I am doing absolutely wonderful tonight.
Okay, you know,
Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here, and I love you, and you know that. And I love the outfits. And
I know what direction
color.
this is going.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's obvious, right? Because you can't come into the Sactown Sports Studios wearing a Kawhi Leonard shirt.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
During a Clippers game. Like, I've got to call you out on that one because I know you're a Kings fan. I get that. And you wear your Light the Beam shirts and everything else, but you can't bring that tonight.
You know what, Scott? Give me a Sharpie. We're going to fix this. we are going to fix this as soon as the break hits.
Kawhi will always be my guy
get you, Kyle.
forever. Like, honestly, I wore this and then remembered as I was putting it on because it matches with the red. So I was thinking about that. And I'm like, well, this will be fine.
That's the other problem with this.
Hey,
okay.
You know
what color did the Clippers wear, Kyle?
Yeah.
There's your Sharpie.
The Clippers are all over the place now.
You got a lot of red on, but we're going to tone that down with a little black.
Appreciate it. Also, answering your question from earlier about Sixth Man of the Year. Currently, Malik is tied for third on the Sixth Man of the Year.
Behind who?
Yeah, what ballot are we talking about?
I mean, these are odds according to a website that does props on.
All right. Well, who's 1 and 2?
Number 1 right now is Tim Hardaway Jr. with the Mavericks.
Get out of here.
Come on.
And then Emmanuel Quickly is number 2.
Oh, wait. Quick ball.
He can play.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quick
and then
ball.
Malik is tied for third with Cole Anthony in Orlando. Which I looked up the stats for a couple of them.
He's playing well. Don't get me wrong. And Orlando's playing well.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, they are. They are.
Of the 4, Hardaway.
He's not Malik Monk.
Yeah, of the 4, Hardaway has the most points per game. Now, he also has the most minutes per game, but he has the most points per game. The highest efficiency rating is Malik Monk of the 4, and highest win shares of the 4 is Cole Anthony, and Malik Monk is second in that group.
I would like to see 3 things with them. Shooting percentage, right? 3-point percentage, and assists. Because I know Malik has to be high, very high on that list.
Well, Malik's running him out the building in 3-point percentage. He's the only one above 40%.
And what about assists?
Assists, we've got Malik at 4.9 and Anthony at 3.6.
See, there you go.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying.
There you go. Case closed.
And those are the only, true guards. I know Quickly's a guard, but he's not traditionally handling the ball. So there you go. I think that settles it. Although of the group, Anthony actually has the highest shooting percentage of the 4, but obviously Malik has the highest 3-point percentage. So that's where things stand in the Sixth Man of the Year. It looks like a 4-man race because next on the list is like Westbrook, which is kind of a cop out because Westbrook's not really coming off the bench except for the last couple weeks.
Westbrook. Get out of here.
Yeah, we got 15 seconds till we get back.
All right. Kawhi.
Yeah. Look, Kawhi. I did write the book on Kawhi.
I know, and it's a
and
great
company,
book, but there's no justification.
Okay.
I understand.
Kyle.
I understand.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a choice.
There we go. We're almost back. Welcome back in the game now right here. Sactown Sports, 1140. Scott Marshall on with the high flyer. Henry Turner. Kings and Clips tonight. Kings trying to even up this season series against LA down in Los Angeles. As the Kings winners last night, they improved to 13-8. The Clips are 12-10. But during the break, we're in the Sactown Sports chat room, so you can see us all there. You can join in on the chat room as well. And, of course, you can see our producer, Kyle, as well. And High Flyer, he shows up in a Kawhi Leonard shirt tonight. That's just disrespect.
Hey, I was just saying I was going to give the kid a choice. He could keep the K or the I. Which one he want? One of them got to go.
Look, I am Sacramento Kings fan all the way, but
as
Kawhi
you've got
is
your
my
bright
guy.
red Kawhi Leonard shirt on.
Yes, I know.
It's going to spill something else by the end of the night.
We've got the Sharpie out.
Yeah.
Once we turn off these cameras, I might just be shirtless back here. That might have to
keep
be
the
how it
Kawhi
goes.
Leonard shirt on. We're good there. We're fine with that. All right, let's break down the Clips. We broke down Sacramento. It was a fun night last night. The Clippers barely hung on to beat the Blazers last night. The Blazers basically just gave this away at the end. I watched the final 2 minutes of this contest. It was turnover after turnover. They gave a dead drive layup to Paul George uncontested. So the Clippers got the win. They weren't overly impressive in that game whatsoever. Both teams are on the second night of a back-to-back. Manny in our chat room makes the point, and High Flyer, I know how you feel about back-to-backs, but Manny just makes the point that the Kings have struggled in second nights of back-to-back. So what gives us any thought that tonight could be different for the Kings in the second night of a back-to-back?
I'm like, right now, I got into a full out-blown war with Kyle about back-to-backs.
Okay, let's hear it.
He was like, well, it's a back-to-back High Flyer. You have to give them a pass. I said, give them a pass for what?
Yeah.
We've been playing back-to-backs for years.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not giving them nothing. If you want to be great, if you want to go from good to great, you have to play back-to-backs.
Yep.
It's a part of the league. No, I'm not giving you a pass. I'm not going, they played last night. So what? The Clippers did too.
They did.
And guess what? Last time I checked, the top four of the Clippers is older than the guys on our squad. So if anybody should be tired, winded, it should be the Clippers.
Yep. Now, of course, the Kings were on a back-to-back. Last time they played the Clippers here, it was coming off the Warrior game, one of the most exciting regular season game we've seen in years.
Give it that.
They were emotionally dead from that game. Maybe physically dead, but certainly emotionally dead. That game was never really close. The Clippers were in town watching that game, well rested. They certainly took full advantage. This will be different tonight. The Kings have a lot more emotional energy.
So, Scooter, you sound like Kyle. Emotionally dead.
I don't think they'll be emotionally dead tonight.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say. They didn't have to expend nearly as much energy last night as they did.
No, but I'm just saying, but here's where you have to be.
Yep.
Even in a game like that, let's say the Kings played the exact same game last night to where they had to go into overtime and it took everything out of them to win.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You emotionally drained that night. When you close your eyes and go to bed and wake up the next morning, that's gone. You better be fresh.
Yep.
You don't have time to say, oh, well, I'm still worried about last night's game. What do you mean?
Hey, you're right. There's no excuses.
None.
You played in the league, so you understand it way better than I do. But I would just say from an outsider's perspective, there was no more of a setup game for the Kings all season long than what we saw the first time when they were playing the Clippers based on the Warrior game the night before. And with the Clippers in town and everything else.
That game was tough. I give them that. But, at the end of the day, it's not like only the Sacramento Kings have to go through those type of situations.
Sure.
Everybody in the league. Think about it. The Clippers just did it.
Right.
They just went through and overtime to where it was tough to win that basketball game. So, and they were at home, and Sacramento was in LA going, y'all just got done. We got done called a plane here, and y'all still playing.
All right, Manny, you got your answer. All right, we'll move on from backs to backs. Clips are at home again where they're playing well. As I said, they're 12-10 overall. They're 8-3 at home. Obviously, when Harden came over, we know the drama and the saga in Philadelphia. They were eventually able to make the move. The Clippers gave up a lot to get James Harden. It started 0-4 with him there, but they're rolling right now. They seem to have things figured out. Harden is really kind of taking a back role at the moment. He's only averaging 16 points since coming over. He's kind of become the third offensive guy behind George and Leonard. He's letting them do their things. Westbrook is coming off the bench. It seems to all kind of be working. Tyronn Lue has kind of found the special sauce, at least for the moment, with the Clips.
Well, the thing is that everything is going to start in with Harden. Russell pretty much is out the mix. He's the guy that's coming off the bench.
Yeah.
James Harden's going to have to find his way. And it really isn't rocket science, but it is a timetable type thing, Scott, because you have two dominant guys who need to have the ball, but the ball's in your hands. So, James Harden has proven that he can facilitate. When he was in Houston, he was getting other guys the ball.
Right.
No doubt. Everybody had to double team him, and he was finding guys. So he's very adept at doing that. So his main thing is, okay, how do I interject my offensive game into this regular game to where I have to make sure Kawhi gets the ball. I have to make sure Paul George get the ball. Where do I put my stamp on this? And he's figuring it out. Now, I knew they were going to be a good team, but that roster is not constructed for them to just be good.
Oh, no.
That roster is constructed for them to be great. So are they going to be great? Well, the jury is still out on me with that.
That's championship or bust. We understand that. And they may not be done making moves. They went out and got Daniel Tice. Steve Ballmer is not going to hold back if there's anything out there. We've been talking in the discussion that Siakam and Anunoby might be available with Toronto. Levine, who knows what might be going on with DeRozan and everything going on in Chicago. So, this may not be the final Clippers roster. It feels like it probably is, but who knows? But for the moment, at least, and it seems to be working. One other thing they're doing with Harden, he's starting right now with this George and Leonard crew, but the second time he comes in, he's running with the second unit a lot too. So they're putting him with the reserves as well.
Well, what I'm starting to see too is that Russell and James is not on the floor at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You only got one general on the floor at the same time. And the thing about it is that Harden may be a little different than Russ, but I think they're kind of the same because both of those guys need the ball in their hands for you to get the best of them. So one of those guys can't be on the floor with each other at all particular times.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the rub was they might be a little bit small, but Zubac seems to be playing a little bit better. We mentioned about Tice coming back in. Norman Powell's a nice piece off the bench. They certainly have enough firepower when they're all clicking. I never really considered them a championship caliber team with this roster. Do you? I know we're still trying to evaluate it, but do they have enough at the moment?
On paper, no doubt. On paper, no doubt. Scott, they got 4.
Yeah.
First ballot Hall of Famers. And Zubac is a very good center. Yeah. He isn't chopped liver down there.
Not at all.
So, yes, they got enough on paper, but can they get it all together is going to be the big question. That's what everybody's thinking about the Clippers. Are they going to be able to make this team play as good as they look on paper?
Yeah, no doubt. They're still a work in progress. It's still early in the year. A lot to figure out with the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard, when he's healthy, he's still one of the best players in the world.
No doubt. When he's healthy, and number one, Scott, when he is engaged. I say that about LeBron James also. When those two guys are engaged, they are the best in the business. Nobody can guard neither one of those guys one-on-one when they want to play.
And maybe the best thing right now about the Clippers, the two, well, I don't know if they're the most dreaded words in the NBA, but they're two of them, and that is load management. We have not heard that about the Clippers. They're playing every game right now. Right. They're not sitting out. I don't know if they deserve credit for that. It's kind of like you would be saying, give them credit for showing up on a second night of a back-to-back. They don't deserve that. That's part of the job. It's part of the job to play every game, but they haven't been doing it either. So,
well, you know what, Scott? I think that those guys understand if they're going to figure this thing out, they have to be on the floor.
Yeah,
it can't be one of those things to where, okay, I'm not playing back-to-backs. Okay, well, I'm not going to be out there on road games. No, if y'all going to figure this out, everybody has to be at y'all disposal for you guys to get it right.
Yeah, no doubt. And it feels like they have that commitment this year. Maybe they have not had that in prior years, so they're feeling it too. And, part of it also, Ballmer obviously expects to win a championship. But part of the equation with LA too, they're moving into a brand new arena next year as well.
Yes.
And they've got to think about that. And of course, whenever you talk about the Clippers, you always got to think about the Battle of LA. Lakers just won the in-season tournament game. We see what LeBron's doing this year. I mean, there's a fight for the attention span, and not that the Clippers are ever going to overtake the Lakers. That's not where I'm going with it, but the Clippers have to consistently prove to be relevant to get some space in the city.
Always. I mean, at the end of the day, they're always going to be the stepbrother to the Lakers, no doubt, because just of the heritage alone. But I'm with you. You know, they definitely want to give the Lakers a run for their money. And if there's ever a thing called New Jack to this league, they're trying to be that. But I will say this. I think that the Clippers are the kind of in the exact same boat that the Warriors are in. This might be their last dance with this crew.
No doubt. And like the Warriors, especially with Klay Thompson has a contract coming up, Draymond Green, all of these contracts for Kawhi, Paul George, and Harden are done at the end of the year.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. This might be the last. It might be something special, or it might be, okay, wholesale time.
Yeah, it could be all or nothing, truly. And they look at it that way every year, but you're right. From a roster standpoint, it could be a completely different roster look for the Clippers next year if things don't work out. All right, we'll take the break. When we come back, we're going to go around the league. We'll get you caught up on all the news and notes. We'll take a look at the other games going on. We'll look back at the scores from last night as well. Game night being brought to you by Mercedes-Benz of Stockton. Check out their full line of luxury vehicles at mbofstockton.com. More of game night right here. Sactown Sports 1140.
All righty, we're live.
Kyle, since you are a Kawhi Leonard expert, and you've studied the team, the Spurs, you've written a great book, and all since
I've been following him since he was a college kid.
In all seriousness, you are an expert on this subject. I mean that, since with all sincerity. Tell us about Kawhi and just break it down. I mean, obviously, we see why he is one of the great players of all time, just with the eye test. But when you break down the statistics and everything else he does, why is he
one of the great players of all time?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, since he was in his second year in the league, he's been one of the best defensive players in the league. And, he's no longer at an elite level. He's not winning Defensive Player of the Years anymore. But, I mean, he's still one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, has gone from being a poor shooter to one of the best mid-range shooters in the league. I forgot what he's shooting from three-point this year, but I can look that up. But obviously he's been there. And how about it? He's played every single game this season.
There we go.
How about that? Kawhi has
incredible.
played every game, despite the fact that one of his knees is shot and the other knee had a torn ACL.
Can I ask you this, Kyle?
Yeah.
Because you said he is not the lockdown defender anymore. Now, is that because he's not with Pop anymore? Because it seemed like until he left San Antonio, he was still a savage on the defensive side of the ball.
It's interesting.
So is it one of those things to where he's not being held accountable to do it, or he's now elected to saying, okay, I'm not that guy anymore?
It's a good question, and I don't know exactly where it stands right now. I'm trying to see if he made the last. Okay, so the last all-defensive team he made was 3 years ago in 2021, and obviously he missed most of the 22 season because of the ACL injury, so he didn't make an all-defensive team last year. I think part of it is age, and I think part of it is it's not his primary focal point anymore. And there's so many interesting reasons as to why the Clippers have underachieved in the eyes of most people. One of the great things, I've got 30 seconds, but one of the most interesting things I've heard is the most interesting thing that's happened in this run of the Clippers was the day that they acquired Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And I think part of that is Kawhi is still a very, very good defensive player, but not the elite defensive player that helped the Spurs get to the championship.
Okay, we'll continue this when we go back.
I ran out of time, but
it's all good. We're
next HD2 Sacramento.
Sactown Sports.
Welcome back in the game night right here, Sactown Sports 1140. Scott Marshall with the high flyer, Henry Turner. Kings and Clips tonight, 7:30 tip. G-Man with the call. Kings Live pregame coming up at 7. We'll take you until then. If you want to join the call or join us on the show, you certainly can call in at 916-339-1140. We would love to hear from you. Game night brought to you by National Garage Door. Call today for your basketball special. We're going to get you caught up on some of the other news and notes in the league. But first, I want to follow up on this. In the chat room, we were having a good discussion about Kawhi Leonard. Kyle, our producer, as we said, wrote a book on the Spurs, a great book. I hope you go and get that, right? Still available on Amazon, right, Kyle?
Anywhere you get books. Yes.
Title of the book again?
The Spurs Dynasty.
By
You
Kyle
can just,
Ledbetter.
Yeah, just type that in. You'll find it.
We were having a good discussion about Kawhi. We don't have to cover all of that. But the one question I want to know, and I'm interested to get your perspective on this, because to me, still one of the great mysteries in the NBA is what happened between Kawhi and the Spurs. I know he got hurt, right? And I think if I'm reading into it, he felt like he didn't get the right medical treatment with that injury. But for that to break down with Popovich, because Popovich is the ultimate players coach. He may get in everybody's face, but to a man, I don't know if there's any other players on the planet that say they don't like or respect playing for Popovich. But obviously that relationship broke down somehow. What insight do you have, or do you, on that?
So if I were to take 8,000 words and trim it down real quickly here, it wasn't Popovich. It was the relationship with him in the front office and specifically with the Spurs doctors. And if you remember, around the same time, this is when Isaiah Thomas was going through the whole thing with the Celtics because of his hip injury during his MVP season and the misdiagnosis. And, then he got traded in the Kyrie deal. But if you remember, the Celtics fired their entire team doctors after the way they handled Isaiah Thomas's hip injury, and the Spurs chose their own doctors and their own professionals over, Kawhi. And then there was disagreement about what the injury specifically was, and it all fell apart. But at the end of it, the only relationships Kawhi maintained were with Danny Green, DeJounte Murray, and Greg Popovich. He still had that deep respect for Pop even after he left San Antonio. So it wasn't necessarily Pop specifically that broke down. Pop was left in the dark on a lot of that stuff that was going on.
Well, I find that hard to believe. How is Greg
Me
Popovich
too.
left in
Me
the dark? There's
too.
no way that
No
Greg Popovich
way.
is left in the dark in the San Antonio
No way,
organization.
because at that particular point, wasn't Greg Pop still the coach and GM?
I believe he
at
was,
that
right?
particular time?
RC Buford was there.
RC
right?
was there. They were in the transition phase between RC and Brian
But
Wright.
come on, how are we supposed to believe that Greg Popovich is left in the
Not
in the
necessarily with the Spurs. Kawhi's camp was not communicating with Popovich or the Spurs. So, information was coming to him from the Spurs, but he didn't have any information coming from Kawhi as to why he was leaving.
The last thing on earth, Henry, the Spurs wanted to do was get rid of Kawhi Leonard, right? I mean, he was right in the absolute prime of his career. He obviously went to Toronto, won a championship.
You know what was crazy is that, we always held the San Antonio Spurs up to be
the model organization,
the epitome of, treating players right and doing the right things. And when that came out, I was definitely, on the side of something in Kawhi's camp couldn't have been right.
Yeah.
Because you never heard anything. Nope. All these other great players that came through that San Antonio organization, you heard nobody say nothing.
Yep.
David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Tony, Emmanuel, all these other guys that, big time players had nothing to say, but Kawhi had a problem. So I always thought that, the riff was on more so Kawhi's side than the Spurs.
No doubt. And I don't know if there's a player who was more built up in the system than Kawhi Leonard, right? He came out of San Diego State. He was a first round pick, but the development of Kawhi Leonard within the Spurs organization, was one of the all-time great case studies of a player fulfilling a potential.
And it's really interesting because even though Kawhi was that MVP. I mean, we forget Kawhi finished second in the MVP behind Steph Curry the year that Steph won unanimous MVP. Right. Even though he was that guy, it was still Tony Parker's locker room. It was still Manu Ginobili's locker room. Tony Parker said years later, like he felt he was making a great sacrifice by turning the team over to Kawhi. And so even though Kawhi was their best player, he was never asked to be the guy or was perceived as the guy in that locker room. And so he kind of felt like an outsider at times when everything was going south.
Now, let me ask you this. Because I'm on the same boat with Scott. I honestly thought that the system really pushed Kawhi and got him to where he became who he is. Do you think Kawhi Leonard would have been that same guy if he got drafted by Detroit?
Any other team in the league?
Yes.
He would not have been Kawhi Leonard, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year and, finished top 3 in the MVP twice. He wouldn't have been that. I do think he would have had a very successful NBA career if he had gone somewhere else.
No doubt. I just think that the system that pop runs was like tailor-made for Kawhi. Because think about it. He's not a great three-point shooter, but he shoots the hell out the ball in the mid-range. And he's very methodical in where he wants to get to and his spots on the floor. So you have to be in a very structured type offense to flow into that. And that's exactly what San Antonio was running back in those days.
And a lot of credit goes to Chip England, who was their famous shooting coach, who I think now works with Oklahoma City. And they completely reinvented Kawhi's shot from his second year in the league until year 5 when he had that second place MVP finish. Like the mechanics of the shot completely changed.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's one of those things I could never figure out. But we will see Kawhi tonight in the Clippers uniform. We'll talk about how to defend them with the Kings in our next segment. Game night being brought to you by National Garage Door. Call today for your basketball special, 916-638-4554. All right, let's go around the league. First, let's catch up on some news and notes. And Henry, I just recently read about this. I don't know if you even heard about this story or not, but I guess there's a lot going on between the Raptors and the Knicks right now. Lawsuits between these two teams. There was an employee of the Knicks who was going for a job with the Raptors and apparently sent a ton of personal information like game plans, scouting reports, all this stuff to the Raptors organization. Apparently, according to the lawsuit, the Raptors used it against the Knicks. Knicks are suing.
Oh, so that has to be somebody that's very high up, okay?
Yes.
You know, to have that type of information about plays and what goes on the floor. So let's just call it what it is, Scott. Somebody, either one of the assistant coaches or somebody that was higher up in the organization, was trying to go to Toronto.
Several players named in, or several office. Let's get this right. Several staffers, Toronto staffers, named in the lawsuit, and they're reserving the right to sue for defamation on the reverse side. So just very interesting what's going on. And you don't really hear much about that. Obviously, we've heard about the whole thing with Jim Harbaugh and stealing signals in Michigan, and that kind of got adjudicated. Harbaugh got the suspension, even though he's never found liable himself. But you just don't really hear much about these things about the NBA. Adam Silver is going to get involved in this, obviously, and kind of crazy.
Oh, it's not a good look for the NBA at all.
No.
You know, if you're a league, you definitely don't want this type of turmoil going on, because you don't want to ever have any type of tampering with the product. You know, the same thing with the referees, with the Diana Heat thing. You know, you don't ever want anything like that to really, you know, shine a dim light on what you have going.
Yeah, the Knicks accusing, and I know I'm pronouncing this name wrong, last name of Azatam, I believe. That was the staffer, conspiring in his position as a current Knicks insider to funnel proprietary information to the Raptors to help them organize, plan, and structure the new coaching and video operations staff. The Knicks allegation of a sweeping conspiracy among defendants to steal the Knicks proprietary trade secrets is false, the Raptors writing in a Monday filing. So we'll see where it all shakes out. But if nothing else, it makes the Toronto-New York matchups a little more interesting when they meet up on the floor next
Oh, no
time.
doubt. It definitely puts a little fuel on the fire when both of those teams get together.
Yeah, we'll see how that continues to shake out. All right, let's get to the on-court stuff. That's what we're more interested in talking about anyways. Celtics leading the Cavs right now, 115-108. Jason Tatum going for 25 and 10. Donovan Mitchell has 29 and 6. The Cavs are 13 and 10. Impressive 7 and 4 away from home. But the Celtics, they're 16 and 5. They're 10 and 0 at home right now.
Very good basketball team.
Yeah.
Very good basketball team. And Scooter, they've been good for a long time.
They have.
You know, they've been their dynamic duo with Tatum and Brown for a long time now. And, you know, both of those guys can coincide with one another. And then they get a good complementary player in Holiday, man. Holiday really helps them out. You know, still have old man Horford in the middle holding things down. They got a very good team.
They do. All right, Lakers and Mavs. This is a good one in Dallas right now. Mavs leading 113-108 midway through the fourth. Lucas got 31 and 14. No surprise there. LeBron, 30 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists in this one for the Lakers. He's just continuing to just ball out.
LB is in his bag right now, man. I mean,
Yes.
he's really playing some good basketball. And, you know, I've always said, if he isn't engaged, he's still one of the tops in the league.
There's no question about that, right? Nuggets and Bulls. Denver leading this one, 81 to 71. Vucevic 21-14 for the Bulls. Again, as we said, they're 9-15. They're 7-6 away from home. We talked about the Raptors story that Sham Sharamia was writing in The Athletic about the Kings' interest in a couple of the Raptors players. I got to think that extends to the Bulls players as well.
Yeah. And which Bull player would you like to throw out there?
Well, if it's
the top three?
Yeah, let's just if we're
top three?
if we're going shopping, Levine, DeRozan, or Vucevic, what order would you put them in? And I know contracts obviously come into this, but if we're just talking about best fit,
Zach, DeRozan, then Caruso.
Okay. Oh, Caruso, even over Vucevic, huh? Okay. Caruso is a glue guy. There's no doubt about that. He is a guy who just wins games for you. He does all the dirty work.
Caruso is a guy to where if you can make a big time splash by moving someone like a Levine or D, try to get him thrown in. You want to get him thrown in to sweeten the deal because he is going to be that guy that's going to really push your team to the next level.
Yep. And honestly, if I'm looking at all three of those guys, I don't really think any of them I'm not saying they wouldn't make the Kings better, but I think the trade-off of what they'd have to give up to get any one of those three doesn't interest me nearly as much as like an Anunoby or a Siakam. Doesn't make sense either because the contract is so prohibitive, although I think Siakam would add to the lineup for sure.
Okay, so you don't think Zach LaVine would be able to bring nothing?
Oh, he would definitely bring something. There's no doubt about it. But I'm just thinking his contract's in the $40 million range. Would I want to give up what we would have to in return to get that? Would he? I'm sure he would certainly fit along De'Aaron Fox. No question about that part of it.
Where would you put him, though? Would you put him at the 2 or the 3?
He's got to play the 2, right?
Not really. Zach LaVine would play the 3 for us.
You would still start Herter with LaVine?
I mean, Zach LaVine is still 6'7".
Okay. I mean, he can play either position. It's a great question.
I'm just saying, where would you put him?
Exactly.
Same thing with DeRozan. You can put D at the 2 or the 3 if you would get him.
And I just don't think DeRozan fits the pace of play for the Kings, right?
I think DeRozan is a good enough player to where he would find his way.
Yeah.
But, if you want to just talk about the up and down, I think Zach LaVine probably would be
better.
A better pick.
I agree.
I mean, if I had my choice, I'm rolling with Kelly Oubre. You know how I feel about it.
Absolutely. Kelly Oubre would be great on this team, and he's great in Philadelphia. And it's good that he's back. He's recovered from that car accident, the rib injury that he had. So we're happy for him. All right, Warriors and Suns round out the other games tonight. That's the marquee TNT game tonight. Phoenix 12-10. Bradley Beal coming back for that one. Do we have word on KD if he's back for tonight or not? We'll get word on that. But the Warriors 10-12 overall, 5-6. These are two teams kind of hovering around 500. They've just been kind of going through it right now. Both have championship aspirations. Not sure either's at a championship level at the moment.
I have to agree with you on that because, just you can name a few teams. It's crazy. LA is championship or bust.
Yep.
Playoffs is not good for them.
Yep.
Both LAs, really.
No doubt.
Okay. Of course, it would be the same thing for Denver.
Yep.
Right?
Warriors, of course.
Throw the Warriors in there. Now, all of a sudden, you want to throw
Phoenix has to be
Phoenix in there.
Yeah.
And then, okay, Memphis isn't there.
No.
But they were there last year.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think that, okay, if Ja gets back and everything start clicking again, you would want to think that team will, just still making the playoffs is not going to be suffice.
It is. And what's crazy right now, and it's way too early and it won't finish this way, but the top 3 teams percentage-wise in the Western Conference are the Timberwolves, Thunder, and Mavericks.
Wow.
None of those teams are championship or bust.
No, not at all. By a long shot.
No. And I don't think it'll stay that way, but it is interesting where things are at the moment. All right, we'll take the break. When we come back, we'll focus in on Kings and Clippers. We talked a lot about Kawhi. We'll look at it now from what the Kings can do to try and shut down the Claw. Game night, as always, being brought to you by our good friends at the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Sacramento, especially during this time, this special month of December. There are so many kids out there Maybe they come from single parent households. They need an outside adult in their life. A volunteer mentor like yourself could really make a difference, especially this time of year. If you have a heart of service, want to do something good in our community, consider Big Brothers and Big Sisters. You can find out more by calling 916-646-9300 or go to bbbs-sac.org to learn all about becoming a volunteer mentor. We wrap up game night when we come back right here, Sactown Sports 1140.
All righty, we are live on YouTube.
All right, Kyle, what do we got, buddy?
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that Knicks and Raptors lawsuit because I felt like no one was really talking
It's
about
under
it.
the radar, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of a big deal, isn't it?
Additionally, because the new head coach of the Raptors, Darko, was it Rajakovic?
Yeah.
He's specifically listed in the lawsuit. Like
Is he really?
Yeah,
Wow.
he by name is listed in addition to the Raptors as an organization. So
Okay.
yeah, it's all very interesting. But yeah, they're getting set for that.
Well, I mean, and again, it'll be probably put out in the courts or they'll be mediated by Adam Silver, right? But let's just say that Knicks or the Raptors are found guilty, right?
Yeah.
What's the penalty?
I mean, I don't know if this
do the Raptors give their first round picks for the next couple of years to the Knicks?
I guess that's more league specific, but this is a real
it's a legal case outside of just NBA ramifications.
Yeah, I know Silver's not thrilled about it because it's like you're suing your league partner, and that's not not very neighborly of sorts. It just causes headache for the league. But yeah, I don't know. I genuinely don't know what the repercussions would be other than I assume they're suing for financial damages. I assume they're not looking to prosecute anyone in that case.
Can't be criminal charges, right?
I don't think so, but I'm curious what the Knicks would get at the end of that. This is a quick break, so we got 30 seconds left. I'll pop in and see what people are talking about in the YouTube. Also, we're going to be out at 55 on the dot.
10, we got 10.
Yeah, you can grab 10.
All right, cool. We'll do that when we come back.
If you're listening, 10, we're going to get you on the phone, so please still be listening.
What time are we out?
All of your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729 or visit us at powercopiers.com.
Welcome back into game night here. Final segment. Scott Marshall on with the high flyer, Henry Turner. We'll take you until 7 o'clock here on game night. Kings Live pregame coming up at the top of the hour. Jason Ross sits in this seat. High flyer stays. G-Man joins. We'll take you until 7:30. G-Man with the call tonight. And gosh, I would have loved to have heard, and I did hear his call on the Malik Monk dunk, which was the Jiffy Lube play of the game. But I would have loved to have heard his call on that 360. I heard he was referencing play of the decade possibility on that. I just wish it had happened, and I wish we'd had G-Man's call because I know amongst all the great all-time calls of the G-Man, that would have been right there.
You know, you just wish that he could have completed the play.
Yeah, I do too.
Because it definitely would have been spectacular, no doubt.
It was epic as it was. All right, we'll get our good friend Tin in before we break down Kings and Clippers. Tin, welcome into game night. How are you, my friend?
I appreciate that, Scott Marsh. I consider you a friend as well.
What do you got for us tonight?
Okay, so Greg Popovich, doesn't he remind you guys of Bill Belichick?
As the greatest NBA coach of all time?
Well, you know, like legacy and also like the non-expression, the non-emotion.
Yeah. I think it's a great analogy. I mean, obviously, in terms of length of service, they both have the most tenure with their teams in their respective leagues. There's no doubt about that. Belichick is going to go down, especially if he retires this year, as the greatest NFL coach of all time. Popovich is going to go down as the greatest NBA coach of all time. I mean, you can make your arguments and all that stuff, but body of work, length of service, all of that stuff, working with one team, all of those things, pretty hard to go against that. And their demeanors are similar. Although I will say, high flyer Popovich is, I think, opened up himself a lot more than Belichick in the final years here. Belichick actually has a lot of personality. I watched the coverage of the Army-Navy game, and they had him on because he was his dad was a coach at Navy. He grew up in that environment, and listening to him talk about the Army-Navy history and what it meant to him and the respect he had for it, you get a different sense of Bill Belichick than when you just hear his one-word answers, because that's what I thought. We're on the next week. We don't talk about Gascade. You know, like he's a totally different human being. When you see Popovich today, like you see him hugging all the players. I told you for a couple of years, it felt like it was the Popovich going away tour.
Right.
It's not. He's still there, and he's got Wembanyama now, so he'll probably stay a while. But I think Popovich has opened himself up more, and certainly Popovich is somebody who's commented a lot more about social issues and things like that. If we're comparing Belichick and Popovich,
it's the change of the game for Pop. You know, at the end of the day, Popovich has really embraced not having championship pedigree type players on his team that are veterans, but he's really embraced trying to teach a new culture and issue in a new jack style of player, a younger trend of player.
Yep, no doubt. He has definitely evolved with the times, and the universal thing, loved and respected by players of all eras. That's another thing that is a classic of both Belichick and Popovich. All right, we got a couple of minutes here. Your take tonight, Kings and Clippers. Obviously, it didn't go well here in Sacramento. What does Sacramento need to do to reverse fortunes tonight?
Not go down by 20 in the first half.
That always helps.
That was number one.
Yes.
You know, the Kings went down big time against the Clippers early on, and they had just did that against Golden State, but found their way back. And I think you and I did game day, and I was telling you that the Kings can't get comfortable with, okay, we can go down 20 because we have enough firepower to where we can come back. Against some teams, you're not going to be able to do that. And it definitely showed against the Los Angeles Clippers, because once they got down big, even though the Kings tried to make a comeback, the Clippers just had too much. They weren't going to let those guys be able to come back. They weren't going to let De'Aaron Fox just be fourth quarter Fox and give the Kings a Herculean effort at the end.
No doubt. Now, the Kings only had 32 points in the paint against the Nets. Obviously, they shot the lights out. I think they probably have to get more than 32 points in the paint tonight.
I'll tell you what, if they shoot 58% for
they don't
three,
need any points in the paint.
they continue to do exactly what they did. But I really want this team to be able to utilize both annuities of what they have at their disposal, Scott. I don't want the guys to get so enamored about three-point shots that's all that they take. Having to understand that it takes a complete game, you know, beyond the arc and inside the paint. You're going to have a steady diet of both types in order to do something special.
No doubt. We'll be tracking the points in the paint. That's brought to you by RT Painting, your reliable and trusted painter in the Sacramento market since 1998. Kyle, let's listen to G-Man's call of that 360 last night as we get ready for Kings Live pregame.
The bounce pass to the baseline. Lyles up and under, kicks to Vizenkov. He swings it on top to Fox. Extra pass to Monk. He's going strong. A 360 spin, and the fans came out of their seats, but the shot rolled off the iron. Whoa, what a deep bag into the bag of tricks that time. Straightaway three, nets, good. Dorian Finney-Smith.
Well, that's a tough finish to that, but the 360 would have been amazing. Obviously, the signature call on the Monk dunk, the Keegan dunk, the G-Man's ready to go tonight. That's going to do it for game night. High Flyers, always great to work with you, and have a great call tonight.
Yes, sir.
Kings Live pregame coming up next. Kings and Clippers, Jason Ross with the High Flyer. 7:30 tip, G-Man with the call right here. Sactown Sports, 1140. Have a great night, everyone.
On the move? Got somewhere to be?
Take Sacramento Kings basketball with you. The Sactown Sports app will let you stay connected to your passion. Never miss a moment of Sacramento Kings basketball.